The movie starts with Poppy as a yoga instructor. She's not very good at the job, obvious from the way the attendants keep exchanging looks between themselves. One of them, Mrs. Clemmer, corrects her on a pose, and Poppy cheerily asks her to come demonstrate for the rest of the class. Seeing Mrs. Clemmer is good at it, Poppy proposes that she takes over the class. Mrs. Clemmer agrees and Poppy heads out. Another scene shows Poppy working in a bakery. She decides she's also not caught out for this job and takes a bow. Her now ex-boss hopes they can have a date, but it seems Poppy's not caught for a relationship either. Poppy is about to head out with a guy named Mike on a date. He talks about his well-thought-out plan for their night out, and it excites Poppy, right until he's leering towards meeting his mother the next day and trying out her wedding dress. Poppy calls it a night and heads back in. Her sister, Megan, set her up on the date, and Poppy relays he's definitely what she's looking for. The way Megan sees it, though, is that Poppy barely gives anything a chance long enough for it to stick. She gives an example of Poppy's latest work at the dental office. Poppy has quit it already, and Megan compares her to their mother. She, too, has a problem with commitment, as she'd gone on a hike, but somehow ended up on a cruise with tourists. Poppy argues she has it in her to commit, but she hadn't found something worthy of committing to yet. Poppy's sister needs her kids for dinner, and Poppy offers to rally them up. The twins are fighting over a toy sword. One broke his, and the other won't share. Poppy successfully creates a make-believe shield using a pillow and tin foil, so they each have a weapon to defeat the pending make-believe enemy. The kids quickly defeat the dragon and run to the dinner table to replenish their strength. Megan acknowledges Poppy's help, stating that Poppy is good with kids. This in return makes Poppy smile. Poppy locates the residence for her new job. Ryan is on a call with earphones on, talking about progressing the company, should they get on a deal he's hoping for. He's engrossed in trying to get the recipient of the call to understand why they're a good fit for the expansion, and doesn't notice Poppy hopping about the windows, trying to get his attention. He finally glances at a window by chance and sees an enthusiastic woman, gesturing for him to get the door. He ends the call and goes to get the door. Poppy hands him her business card with her services named temporarily for you. He knows her as Megan's sister. They make small talk, with Ryan wanting to know if Poppy had a problem locating his place. It's the only place without Halloween decorations, and Ryan explains the holiday was his wife's thing. Poppy apologizes if she's intruded, but Ryan assures her it's fine. Anyway, his company is working on upgrading one of their apps, and that's where Poppy's services come in. He needs a nanny for his kids Zoe and Zach. Poppy gives Ryan the idea to trick the kids into coming down to be introduced to their new nanny. It works, but they're hostile, especially when they see she's not a real mermaid. Ryan believes they'll eventually warm up to Poppy, who reasons they must miss their old nanny. Ryan waves it off as a long story and has to hurry to meet with work. He doesn't usually work on Sundays, but the company has a lot of work to get to. He hands over the keys and gives Poppy the password before heading out. Poppy glances admiringly at a framed picture of Ryan's family before heading up the stairs. Zoe's room door has a note that states a password is required. After confirming both kids are hiding in the room, she lets out her silly side, guessing the password incorrectly several times before pretending to think about it deeply to come up with the right one. Zach gets the door, and Zoe isn't amused because she believes her dad must have told Poppy the password. Poppy insists she's a mermaid, and Zoe asks her to prove herself by guessing her thoughts. Poppy does it effortlessly, and the kids are surprised. She asks if they're now prepped to have a fun time with her. Ryan gets to work, and his working email has hundreds of messages waiting for him, signifying he really has a lot of work to attend to. Ryan charges himself up with a smile. Poppy takes the kids to a harvest festival, and Zoe is still inquisitive about Poppy being a mermaid. She asks a bunch of questions that Poppy answers to prove she's won. They head over to the corn stand, and Poppy explains they need the corn to make cornbread and chili back at home. Poppy asks if their dad likes chili, and Zoe reveals their dad lives more at the office than at home, and she feels that's why Poppy is needed. They need adult supervision to fill in for an absent dad. Poppy infers their dad would love to spend time with them. Meanwhile, Zach spots a spider and takes off running. The rest of the outing spirals with Zach still upset about the spider, and Zoe still not comfortable with having a nanny. She and Poppy are at the goat's pen when a goat takes to chewing on Zoe's favorite sweater. This riles Zoe, and both kids want to go home. Poppy admits she's ready to give up on the fun as well. It's bedtime, so the kids are tucked, and Poppy checks up on them. Ryan drives in soon after and meets the house in disarray. The kids' stuff littered about. Poppy is on the floor scrubbing at a juice stain on the white rug. He tells her not to worry about the rug and asks if the kids are asleep. Poppy reports that one is, and the other is faking. As for their time at Harvest Festival, it went terribly wrong. And while she's not alluding that Ryan's kids are terrible, she needs to take her leave. Ryan groans at the news, pleading it's just been a day. Poppy explains she's never nannied anyone, and her closest experience are her sister's twins. If she's good with her nephews, then it's probably because she's related to them. Ryan already knows Poppy has no nanny experience because Megan was transparent with him, and now Poppy feels he must be desperate to have gone ahead and hire her still. He pleads with her to hang on for a couple weeks, and Poppy breathes heavily in response. Ryan wants her to accommodate them for a month, but it all seems like too long a period for her. Ryan sees she's adamant and reluctantly admits kids are generally a commitment, and he understands her decision. On hearing the word commitment, Poppy decides to change her mind, ready to retain the nanny job for at most the end of the month because she has a vendetta to commit. Ryan is relieved to hear this and wonders if she could maybe extend her services to Thanksgiving, but Halloween is her limit. And Ryan wanting to know if she'd be available as early as dusk is pushing it. Poppy retires home and has good enough news that she didn't quit. Megan alludes she's hoping her sister can also possibly venture into a relationship with her new boss. The idea is incredulous where Poppy is concerned, because Ryan is her boss, a workaholic, and his kids don't even like her. Megan advises that she just keeps being herself, and the kids will warm up to her. Meanwhile, Ryan is having a tough time with his kids over spiders, losing sleep and possibly eating spiders. Poppy turns in for work the next day, and Ryan is excited to see she's kept to her promise. She insists it's only temporarily and helps herself to breakfast on Ryan's request. Both kids ended up sleeping in his room the previous night, as it was the only way to solve the spider issue. He confirms that although Poppy is currently putting up with her sister and her sons, she's single and lives alone. He tells her this makes her perfect for his company's test group. He tells her what the app is about, which automatically explains why it's suitable for single folks like her. He goes on to elucidate that a Japanese company wants to buy the app, which would be excellent foreign partnership for his company. In this light, he has a big presentation for the Japanese company on Halloween. Poppy hands him a PJ sandwich to go on his way out. She then calls out to the kids, as they'll need to get ready for school. She tries striking a conversation with them as she pulls into their school, but they ruthlessly give her the silent treatment and hoist their bags through the front door. She calls Megan to complain there's no progress with the kids, but suddenly gets an idea and sends a voicemail, saying she might have a plan. When the siblings step out at closing hours, they find Poppy in the same spot they left her. She waited for them the whole school hours, and now she informs them about a field trip they'll have before heading home involving fun spiders. They arrive at a supermarket selling Halloween decorations, and this excites the kids. Zoe opens up about her mom decorating for Halloween yearly before she couldn't anymore. Zoe expresses how her memories of her mom are limited, and she can say the same for Zach. Zach ends up on an aisle with a giant spider and freezes. Poppy explains it's not a real spider, and Zach responds that he's aware, but it's just as scary. She makes it less scary by making it wear a clown wig, and Zach agrees it makes a difference. The kids even giggle when she tells a joke, and Zach runs off to the zombie aisle because zombies are cool. Their cart only has a few things in it, and there's room for a lot more. Ryan has a visitor at his office, Miss Morwell. She stands by the entrance to tease him, asking if he ever takes a break. He teases back that she's just as bad, hence all the emails she sent to him on her travels back from Tokyo. Miss Morwell fires back that he's the one who chose to reply to every one of those emails in record time. His reply to that is that he's efficient. The playfulness aside, Miss Morwell breaks the good news that the Japanese company love the app, and what they need is the presentation to seal their interest. Miss Morwell wants Ryan to handle the presentation, as the idea for the app is his. He, on the other hand, wants to acknowledge that she's the one who brokered the deal. She takes the framed photo of Ryan and the kids and muses that Ryan must be having a hard time raising them by himself. He affirms that it's no easy task. Poppy and the kids arrive home with tons of purchased decorations, ready to have the house in full and proper Halloween spirits. They all get engaged decorating the backyard. Zoe notes that Poppy draped the light the same way their mom would. She joins the kids on the lawn, assessing it would need more skeleton decorations. The kids talk more about their mom and have some of Poppy's candy treats. By the close of the scene, they're not so hostile and are clearly having fun, full with giggles. Poppy and Zoe stay up late to do the dishes. Zoe didn't have to stay up because they have a dishwasher. But Poppy knows she's excited to see her dad's reaction to the Halloween decorations. They chatter about what a surprised face Ryan would pull. They giggle at the idea when Zach hovers at the stairs because a nightmare woke him. She puts Zach back in bed, but he's still worried about a part of the room that's darker than the rest because in his dream, spiders came out from that corner and ate him. Poppy appeases it was only a dream, but Zach would feel better with his night lamp on. Poppy has a greater idea for him to sleep with the door open, so the lights from outside his room would make him feel better. Zach happens to sleep, facing away from the door, so Poppy changes his pillow to the opposite end, so he can sleep facing the open door. She promises to leave the lights turned on all night to keep the spiders away. Zoe isn't happy when her staying up goes to vain. Poppy tries to cover up, but Zoe notices it quickly that her dad didn't pay attention to their hard work and decorations outside. Zoe accuses him of never paying attention to anything of great importance to them and storms off to her room. Ryan knows he has to go appease her, and Poppy thinks to hold on to his phone so he can have her full attention. He retreats from the stairs moments later with no progress concerning Zoe. Poppy can only warn that his daughter's teenage years won't be any easier. She offers him coffee, and he thanks her for keeping the children occupied with decorating, stating they must have had fun. She tries not to pry or come off rude by mentioning Ryan is always with his phone. He puts it aside immediately and admits he wants to spend quality time with his children, but that would only be possible after he's finalized the deal over the food app. He has a colleague dinner coming up that coincides with a Halloween-themed baking event he could have partaken in for the kids' sake. Saying it out loud, he realizes the dinner with the colleague might actually be a date, and Poppy concurs before calling it a night. Zoe eavesdrops part of the conversation from her hideout by the stairs. The next day, Zoe and Poppy are baking when Zoe asks if her dad might be in love with the woman he's going to dinner with. She saw her name, Abigail, in his phone. She has a friend whose parents got divorced, and the father remarried soon after a dinner date with his new wife. Poppy would rather they concentrate on the baking, but Zoe isn't easily distracted. She wants to know how people know when they're in love. Poppy feels she's not the best candidate to answer the question because she's single. Zoe asks if her dad is going to fall in love with Abigail, and is curious about how people know when they found love. Poppy thinks about it for a second and answers love has to do with wanting to communicate and share things that make you happy or excited, and being happy or excited over things that your special someone shares. Zoe asks if Poppy has ever been in love, and her reply is that she hasn't yet. Ryan and Abigail, Miss Morwell, are out on a dinner date. She talks about the enticing job offer she got in Tokyo, but turned it down as she believes the environment isn't for her. She also hints that there's someone else that keeps her rooted to home. Ryan tries to insist she handles the presentation, but Abigail doesn't want the entire outing to revolve around work. This confirms his earlier thought that it's not a work meeting over dinner. He's out on an actual date. They put on a smile now that they're on the same page. Ryan comes home to meet Poppy, and the kids knee-deep in work. It's late, but it's for a good cause because they've made cookies that double up as both Halloween cookies and educational cookies. Poppy schools Ryan on what makes the cookies educational, and the kids would really want that their dad come for the Halloween party the following day. They feel he should be able to make it because it's happening at lunch break. He tells them he'll commit the event to his to-do list. He ushers the kids to bed, and Poppy confronts him about his actual schedule for the next day. She opens up about her personal life, narrating her parents' divorce. Her mom is a free spirit, and her father is more conservative, but her dad chose to be more involved in his children's life and build a stronger relationship with them. Ryan gets the message and affirms he'll be present for the Halloween party for the sake of his kids. The mood soon changes when Ryan moves to pick something out of Poppy's hair, and the two get awkward around themselves. They break eye contact to fiddle with stuff, and Poppy asks if it was actually a date with Abigail. Turns out it was, and there might be a second one. The Halloween party is happening, and Ryan is nowhere to be found. Poppy assures he'll be there as promised. Meanwhile, Ryan is caught up in work and has a meeting to attend to. Poppy worries about him not showing up, and Megan notices she's a bit too worried for just the nanny. She denies it, stating she's worried on behalf of the kids. She also remarks that Ryan has a partner already who she happened to Google, but not because she's jealous or interested in him. Megan concedes that she'll just have to set Poppy up for more blind dates. The kids are dressing Poppy as a mummy when her phone notifies her, showing a text explaining he won't make it to the event. Back at home, Poppy tries to initiate movie night, but the kids are in a damper mood. Poppy comes up with an idea to get their father's attention. By the time Ryan comes in, his kids are in interview mode, dressed professionally to evaluate their father's capacity as a father. They have flashcards to express their assessment, making him understand that while they're aware he loves them, his actions put everything work-related above them. They reference him missing the party, which was important to them, and ask him if he's cool being the dad they can't count on. Ryan's reply is no. Their take is that he'll need to do better then. They hand him the results of his evaluation, which ticks the boxes for mentionable criteria, and with it, a remark that they love him. Ryan gets emotional and calls them in for a hug. Poppy watches the scene with a proud smile on her face, musing that she's found something she's good at. The smile disappears as she reminds herself it's only temporary. Poppy and the Ryan family go pumpkin farming, Ryan included. He lets on that he's missed a lot, but Poppy adds that it's not too late. While the children run off, Poppy and Ryan talk about costumes, which leads Poppy and Ryan to reveal their ages to each other. They both Googled each other, and Poppy waves his interest in Googling her as a mere tech hobby, but he counters that he doesn't go about Googling everyone. For a brief moment, they both get tongue-twisted with the emotions building between them. Ryan spots a big pumpkin they should definitely pick, but he can't lift it up. Poppy helps him lift it into their barrow as they laugh and chat, and the kids watch with a smile, the chemistry building between their dad and their nanny. Back at home, they carve the pumpkins and discuss their costumes. Ryan suggests they can try a costume store close to his workplace, but Poppy informs him they'll be making their own costumes. Zoe thanks Poppy for making their dad spend time with them, but Poppy corrects that Ryan isn't being made to be around his kids. He simply just realized how much he's been missing out on because his kids opened his eyes. Getting comfortable with having Ryan around, Zach wants his father's special hamburgers. Ryan glances at his watch and has to put the baton in Poppy's hands because he has another date with Abigail. Poppy proposes she and the kids can have their own dinner date at a pizza diner. The kids buy the idea. When Ryan leaves, Zoe remarks she doesn't like Abigail, even though they've never met her. They're afraid she'll get married to their dad. Poppy preps that their dad isn't rushing into marriage, and they should give Abigail a chance before passing out judgment. Plus, no one is replacing their mom should they be concerned about that too. The kids don't want Abigail because they like Poppy instead. Poppy schools them, explaining there's room to like more than one person. Next thing, they're welcoming the idea of Poppy marrying their dad instead, and going on about what the ceremony should be like. Since she can't distract their minds, Poppy entertains the idea with them. Abigail and Ryan are on a walk. Ryan admits he's a bit rusty as he's not been on a date since his wife passed away. Abigail appreciates that he's giving them a chance and feels they have what it takes to work it out. She notices he has something else on his mind and asks him to spill. He elucidates that his kids feel threatened, and Abigail remarks that she understands, but she's willing to show them that she's not on a mission to replace their mother. Ryan is at ease hearing that from her. It's well into the night and Poppy checks on both kids who are fast asleep. Zach still sleeps with his pillow at the opposite side of the bed, so he's facing the open door, and Zoe fell asleep with a book in her grasp. Poppy carefully takes it away and tucks her in, sighing fondly, then turning off the lights on her way out. Ryan meets Poppy on the entrance steps and joins her there. His date was okay, not superb, but Abigail is open to yet another one with him. He mentions his fear of the kids not accepting Abigail, but Poppy reminds him that's only natural. He thanks her for her help and consistency so far, and she thanks him too. They lean towards each other, but Poppy was only trying to get her keys behind him while he thought she was going in for a hug. They joke awkwardly about it and label themselves as friends. Poppy leans in again for her bag and bids him good night. Poppy updates Megan about her almost awkward hug with Ryan. The sisters are having a yoga session in Megan's yard, and Megan assesses how her sister is still running from a commitment, one that might be really good for her. Poppy argues that things are complicated. He's her boss, and she has the kids in mind and wouldn't want to give them false hope, especially since Ryan still has something going on with Abigail. Megan appreciates how her sister has always puts her and her sons first. But now, Megan just wants her sister to have a commitment outside her and the boys. Poppy turns in for work the next day and finds Ryan in holiday spirits. He's been decorating. Poppy approves, and she receives a cup of coffee from Ryan as a reward. They both now know each other's coffee preference and cheer to that. Ryan annotates that an outsider would think they're a couple that's been married for donkey years with an interesting love story. In their make-believe, the current song on the radio would be their song, and resisting a dance to it would be a slap to the face. Poppy falls into step with Ryan, and they move to the song together. They resist the urge to get too intimate or touchy, somehow managing to stall their kiss long enough for the kids to interrupt. They pull apart, and Zoe announces their dad will be taking them trick-or-treating. Well, technically, Poppy will, but Ryan has offered to meet up at some point. Poppy lets on she's gotten the materials needed to make their costumes, and they'll get on that later in the day. She wants the kids to have a proper feel of the celebration, as it's been long enough. Fun aside, they need to get to school, so Ryan ushers them to get their bags, proposing they walk to school today. All four leave the house, looking like a family on an average day. Poppy taking Zach's hand, while Ryan takes Zoe. Abigail and Ryan talk about the approach for the upcoming presentation. Abigail professes Ryan would love Tokyo, and they can take a quick trip as a couple after the presentation. He lets on that he'll have to be home early to be with his kids. Ryan keeps to his promise. He meets Poppy and the kids playing football and joins in. Ryan tackles Poppy, and they end up on the floor in a compromising position, barely fighting off a kiss. It's Poppy who makes the situation less intense, but the kids think it only wise to join the human stockpile. They're all on the floor with giggles when Abigail pays them a surprise visit. Ryan introduces Abigail to Poppy and the kids. Abigail brought his attention to work, but one glare from Zoe has him rethinking if he can work from home instead. He invites Abigail in for their pumpkin-themed dinner, on the account that Poppy can make room for more. So, a dazed Poppy pulls herself together and extends her friendliness to Abigail. Zoe calls the attention of both her working dad and baking Nanny to see the final result of her witch costume and Zach's spider costume. Ryan calls them in for a group selfie, and Ryan gets around 2 photographs when Abigail interrupts the moment with compliments of her own. At the dinner table, at Abigail's request, she becomes aware that Poppy hasn't been a nanny for long, and Poppy's nephews happen to attend the same school with Zoe and Zach. The kids make Poppy sound like a superhero, so Poppy tries to downplay it and make Abigail sound more interesting to the kids. The kids aren't warming up to Abigail, and all hell lets loose when Abigail breaks it that their dad won't be around for Halloween, as they'll have to entertain their new client. The kids hate this and storm off. Ryan offers to take care of the situation, leaving a stunned Abigail and a worried Poppy. Left alone, Abigail admits to Poppy that she's not sure how to handle kids, while Poppy seems to be an expert with them. Poppy explains it wasn't always like that and preps Abigail that kids are much like a job, referencing work since Abigail can relate better to that. According to her, kids will test you before they can trust you. Ryan has the kids settled, and Poppy takes over while Ryan sees Abigail out. Poppy glances them kissing by Abigail's car and walks away. Poppy reads the kids a bedtime story under a forte they've made. They tell her they love her, and she reciprocates the affection, hugging them tight from both sides as they start to drift off to sleep. Ryan sees the moment and can only smile. Poppy is set to leave when Ryan summons up the courage to talk about them. Ryan stutters for words on wanting Poppy to stay. She infers that would be an issue, as she's getting attached to the kids as much as they're getting attached to her. Plus, there's Abigail, and she wouldn't want to mess that up. She emphasizes that her services are temporary, and she'll move on after Halloween. Ryan, who has barely gotten a coherent word into the conversation, gets hurt that Poppy is pushing away. The conversation ends on a sour note, with Poppy pulling out and Ryan deciding she won't even get to say a farewell to the kids. She walks away holding back tears. Poppy comes clean to Megan that she's fallen for Ryan and only got apprehensive because she wants to be more than just a nanny, and she saw him kissing Abigail. The kids expect to see Poppy, ready to take them to school or pick them from school, but things have changed. Zoe doesn't see why they should because she knows Poppy loves them and loves their dad too. Ryan maintains that Poppy might have moved on, but they'll always have him. They solemnly accept this. Poppy returns to take on the yoga class, and after the session, Mrs. Clemmer assesses she was zoned out. She understands that Poppy must be having boy trouble because she has daughters herself. She advises Poppy not to ignore the situation but address it, using her best emotions to decide the outcome. Ryan is working from home with Abigail, as earlier mentioned to the kids, but he's miles away. He excuses himself to check on them because he feels they're being too quiet. He finds them watching TV and asks if they're okay. Zach wants Poppy, but Zoe condenses their happiness was meant to be short-lived, and it's only a matter of time before they begin a new routine of new nanny with an absent dad. Ryan acknowledges they miss Poppy, and he misses her too, but he's done being an absent dad. Abigail hears this and silently retreats before they notice her presence. Poppy plans to stay home with the candy while her nephews and Megan go trick-or-treating. The kids have someone new to parental guide them through Halloween. Ryan is with Abigail, but he's thinking of his kids and wishing Poppy was still around to make them feel better about his absence and broken promises. Abigail tells him she'll be going to Japan because she's not blind to the chemistry the whole Ryan family has with Poppy, and she's gracious enough not to interfere with that. Poppy admits to 2 kids she mistakes for Zoe and Zach that she misses the Ryan family, and she has feelings for their dad. Saying it out loud pumps her up, motivating her to confront him with her feelings. She hurriedly hands candy to the confused kids and wishes them a happy Halloween. The presentation doesn't start well, but Ryan finds a way to announce to the crowd that his colleague, Abigail, will do a better job presenting his work. The same work that was made to connect people, but in the process has drawn him apart from the ones he loves. The attendants understand and Abigail has his back, so he can take his leave. Poppy dresses up as a mermaid and heads to Ryan's. Ryan gets home in time to witness his kids still getting ready for trick-or-treating. They're excited to see him. The coworker that had been assisting the kids takes her leave and Ryan goes to change into a costume so he can take the kids out to get candy. He comes down dressed a knight, and while the kids go get their pillowcases to bag their candies, the doorbell rings. Poppy is at the other end of the door and surprised to see Ryan isn't at the presentation. He explains he's chosen his family and was getting the kids ready to come find her. Yet, she's come back to them instead. He expresses they don't need her as a nanny. They just need her as Poppy. He wants her to be permanently theirs and seals it with a kiss. The kids run down the stairs just in time to see Poppy is back and she's staying.